So let's start with this. I'm going to make, oops. Just repeat a bunch of these. No, I hardly ever, it's another tool I hardly ever use, but so what, right? Doesn't mean anything. I'm just making random. Now, oops, that's not good. Now, this tool, which is the blend tool, which is right, I think it's right here. It's actually right here. And as I start connecting these, after I grab the blend tool, which is that right there, it starts just blending these together. You guys see that? Yeah?
Yes, we do.
So let's go back. Because that doesn't, I mean, you can do it that way if you need to. Or you can go here and up here under, I think it's object. You can go blend right here. And you can go blend options, smooth color, specified steps, which you can put in like how many steps you want by number, and specified distance. So I'm just going to keep it smooth color. To be honest with you, this orientation thing I've never really understood. It doesn't seem to make that much difference to me. And I'm going to go okay. Oh, and then I have to go, here's the trick. You have to go back to blend and go make. And then it just connects them all for you. Does that make sense? So let's make a, let's just pretend this is a letter form or something like that. Could be a word. Could be anything. So I'm going to come down here. I've never done it. Let's just do it this way. I'm going to make then I'm going to go to the same routine. I'm just going to go this is actually kind of useful. Let's go to dramatic shift here. And now I'm going to go here. I'm going to go object, blend. We already have it set, so let's just try it. Let's go make. There it is. Okay, so it made this blend. You guys see that?
Yes.
Now I'm going to make a copy of it, and you'll see why here in a minute. Now I'm going to select both these things. I'm going to go up here to Object, Blend, Replace Spine. And it will now assign it to this line. But you notice it ate it. It took it. Do you see that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a handy little thing, though. So if I'm going to do it, I have to, go, okay, if I'm going to make another one, then I got to do another, I got to make another copy. And you're literally, that's what you're doing. You're replacing this onto the spine of that new line. Let's try reverse spine. Oh, we just reversed it. That's interesting. And let's go replace spine. There it is. So you can do this with letter forms. You can do it with anything. Does that make sense?
Can you move it or blend it after you do the original one?
Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. It's weird if you take the oh, that's interesting. If you take the little increments or whatever, they change the shape. See what I mean? Yeah?
Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
I didn't know that. I never tried that. That's interesting. What I'd probably do here, I mean, if I was doing this with something, damn it. I gotta get this all put back together. I might come in here. Because right here it's suggesting, and I do this with the Pathfinder. I'm going to do it real sloppy, but I do it with the Pathfinder. You know, and kind of push the idea that it's casting a shadow on itself or it's bending over. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yes, yes, that does make sense.
And then I'd actually probably do this as a little gradient and let it fade to 0 and then do an overlay. If I wanted to push that idea of dimensionality, I could also come up here and do the same thing. I'm going to do this again really sloppy. And I'm going to go here. I just love when my swatches disappear. It's so cool. And I love that they never fixed that problem. Let's go here. And then go. Maybe I just do it like this. Let's see. What is this? Oops. You know, and I'd have to soften it up a little bit, but I could get a nice little highlight on there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Can you alter the blend, like the amount it takes to make a transition within the blend? Between like the blue
I
and
think you'd want to do that when you kind of initially create it.
oh, I see, okay.
But to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole that much with this thing. So anytime I think of something like that, I'll just try it. That's a crappy highlight.
Couldn't
That's
you use
crappy
like a
shadow.
multiply layer instead to kind of shadow it?
Yeah, that's what I have here.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm using a multiply layer. It's just a crappy design, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure. The shape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not a good shape. I'm just trying to do them quick. And I'd soften that edge. This would be really soft. I might even do it with just a line, like put the little line in there, blur out the line, and then contain it with a clipping mask. I might do that. So the paint bucket tool will go in here and do your overlaps. will allow you to, do this very quickly if you want to do it that way. Does that make sense? But you got to select all of them. Does that make sense? Now, let's look at this. So some of these tools, so let's go artistic, or let's go to pixelate. And let's go to, let's try pointalize. I don't know what that one does. And you're going to get these windows, like this one's a little different. So most of these things, no, this one's really got to think. There it goes. So that's actually kind of interesting a little bit, right? Now, if I was going to, you know what this is interesting? I was just talking to a friend of mine. She was talking about, I forgot the name, terrazzo tile or whatever that's called. And I go, well, that tile looks just like linoleum from like the 70s. This looks just like that tile. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like knowing that now, I go, oh, I could take that, do this, then I could skew it in perspective, and I got a linoleum 70s tile floor, right?
It still needs green shag carpeting. So
Yeah.
that makes it the 70. Let's
go artistic, or let's go back to pixelate. Let's try, and let's do halftone. Now this one doesn't give you a preview, which kind of sucks. I'm going to go to 25, and you can dial in the different channels. You'll see what that does if you play with it. It's rasterizing it too. I think a lot of these rasterize, which I'm not a big fan of. And we can get a halftone idea. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
There it goes. So this is glowing edges, which I don't know what I would use that for. It could be an interesting random thing. But here I can go and I can start get a pixelated idea. I can dial this in bigger or smaller. I think it should have it go even bigger. And then how much relief do I want in it? All that kind of stuff, okay? Here's stained glass. Texturize, it's just adding a subtle texture to it. There is, let's go to artistic. These are weird. Let's go to fresco. You know which one is cool though? Let me find it.
Are you able to find like new textures to add to the
Through
library?
this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or are there other tech? A lot of these textures are almost like 3D, right? In the way they look. So I'm just
Yeah,
curious
what I'm looking for is like I'll find certain things in here which 90% of them I don't use, but every now and then I'll find something and I'll go, oh, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I sort of catalog it because a lot of this stuff for me just isn't that useful. Not that it isn't if you find a use for it. Again, just it doesn't really matter how I use it. It matters how you use it. And to be honest with you, I haven't played that much in here. I tend to not use a lot of effects and things when I'm doing this. But again, so what? Now, there was one in here. Distort. If you go to distort, they have glass, which is kind of interesting. And it sort of looks like it's behind a shower glass. Does that make sense? Or shower door. Yeah?
Yes. Yep.
Here, you can really push it. I think that's kind of interesting. I could use that if I had that idea. If I had, the bathroom and somebody's in the shower, I could do this kind of thing with just a silhouette and it would work pretty nicely. I think what it's doing right here is interesting. Just from a texture perspective, I might use that and then go, oh, I like that. Go separate that out, put this over it, and then maybe overlay it on something to get texture and do an overlay over it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like that might be, if I put my line work over this, let's see if I can do it. Go back up here to effect, distort, glass. I'll push it up more. Maybe even just there. Let's just do that. I might have to get rid of this. So I'm going to ungroup these for a second. I want to make this a group. Oops. Still group. And that's kind of interesting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, that does.
Let's go object, arrange, send it back. Now I'm going to put this back and go to transparency. And it gives a little bit of tone. That's actually interesting. I've never done that before. That's cool. That all makes sense? So let's go here. Effect. Brush strokes. These are kind of weird. Let's go. A lot of times it turns it black and white, which makes no sense to me. Let's go accented edges. Don't care. Don't care. Cross hatching. Let's see if we can push that up a little bit. Again, I could use this as an undertone or something like that. That's how I would use it. Like, I try and look at these things as I go, well, I don't know if I would use that for anything. But then I go, it could work as a texture, as an undertone, as sort of an underpainting that feels loose and underpainting. Let's go sprayed strokes. That's kind of, that could be a reflection if I push that hard enough. Let's try this. Let's go back to here, effect, distort, ocean ripple. Sort of like the other one. Let's go ocean ripple, ripple size. So that could work as a reflection. If I like your Lake Powell, that could come down and break up in the water. Or I could put like a shape. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but water will get, if it's simple, it'll get a dark value from whatever's casting that dark value, and then it'll go into the light, and it'll have a break that looks kind of like this right here as it goes into the lighter value. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know that I'm the guy that could handle.
Maybe I'll, you know what? Maybe I'll do a quick little demo on it next time or something, because it's really simple. Yeah?
Sure. Yeah.
Could you then use like the measure, distort, and like kind of stretch it out, like you're talking about if you did the water skier, and just kind of blur that out even more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing with all these tools, and I was saying this to my Photoshop classes, you know, all the time, actually. Most of these things, for me, are sort of a starting point, and then I still got to manipulate them somehow. Does that make sense? So you can go through these, and you'll just get a lot of interesting, or not. Let's go fresco. And this is the plastic wrap. For some weird reason, this filter became like a thing. Everybody was putting plastic wrap, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. Never understood that. Paint daubs. Let's make it bigger. See, like I could use that as an underpainting, sort of an underpainting idea. Does that make sense? Accented edges, angled edges. Just all kinds of stuff in here. To be honest with you, a lot of them don't make any sense. You know, like they go, here, this is oil paint or whatever. And you're like, that doesn't look like oil paint at all. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of interesting. Again, I could use that as a, you know, reflection or something like that. Here's texture. Going through that one. You know, blah, blah, blah. You guys remember we went over up here under effect, we went over distort and transform these things. You guys remember that, right? Last week?
Mhm.
Yes,
So you kind of have that in tool form right here. So you can see I'm using, I think it's pinch or warp or something. And it lets me go in here. Again, I could use this for reflections. I could use it for a lot of stuff. And it's just, you know, I can do that. So it's sort of the same tool. Here's the pucker. So it's sort of like a tool version of those filters that are up in effect, which actually is kind of interesting because you can do some weird stuff with them that you couldn't do. Like I could get almost, now I look at it and I go, I could do sort of a, I manipulated this right. I could probably get this guy to look a little like a genie coming out of the bottle. That's the pucker one. Here's the bloat. Scallop tool. Okay, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. I could get a lot of interesting edges with that. Look at that. I could create grass with that. I could create like hair. That's interesting. It wouldn't work like that if you did it up here with the regular filter. Crystallize or crystalline. That's a nice one. Look at that. We do a lot of cool stuff with that. And wrinkle. Let's see what that does. That actually isn't a bad one either. I never used these. I should start using these a little more. They're just sort of like a little more, what do you call it, nuanced than just the standard filter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And now I've made a total mess. But that's interesting to me, actually. If I kind of got used to using this, I could do a lot of interesting things with it. And this is still staying vector, all that. Now, what it's going to do, because you can see it, it's going to create 10 billion points. Look how many points it's created. See that? So that could get a little bit tricky. But I don't know. It depends on your computer, actually. Does that make sense, you guys?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brush strokes, we just went through that. Distort, we just went through that. Pixelate, we went through that. Sketch, we just went through that. It's note paper. I've never done that. Hang on. Note. Like, why is that note paper? Right? Like, why is that note paper? It doesn't make any sense. But now I've got a silhouette with a bunch of texture in it. I might be able to use that. Right?
Yeah.
Look at, I could do an overlay with that, and I could just put a texture on it. Boom. I want to do that. Oh, by the way, there's this one here, you guys. It's actually pretty handy. Let me get rid of this. It's bugging me. You can go here, effect, crop marks, and it automatically gives you your crop marks for that square. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Which is really handy. Now, that's weird. Usually you can reselect it. That's weird. Why can I not reselect it? You might have changed that. You didn't used to be like that. But let's go. So I might go. That's where I want my, this is my decision. So, what's going on with this thing? Effect. And now usually what I do is I try and get rid of this because I don't want it. I could just turn off the line on it. That's kind of a nice handy thing. Does that make sense? All right, you guys, I'm gonna let you go and I'll see you tomorrow at 1:30. Yeah?
Okay,